Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This one's going to be a fun one today, and I know a lot of you have been asking for this ever since I did my first Retire on Bitcoin video a good while ago. So without further ado, let's jump in. This video is how to retire on Ethereum. It's basically a structured presentation on the number of Ethereum you need, not only across 4 different price prediction methodologies, but also across some of the countries where the top viewers come from, and the best places in the world to retire. So if you have a plan, for example, to retire in Bali, Indonesia, I'll tell you exactly how many Ethereum you need to do that. So this will be fun. First one, disclaimer, none of this is investment advice. You all know that. And this is all, again, as usual, powered by mathematics. So I just want to also, for any new subscribers, I get a lot of questions from a lot of you, and you just 90% of the time I've already addressed the type of questions you ask in previous videos, like how to dollar cost average, how to supercharge your crypto portfolio, how to play options, that type of stuff. So there's a lot more content coming every single day, but sometimes it's worthwhile to subscribe and look through some of the previous videos as well. So this journey begins with an area called Ethereum dominance. And this is important to the actual valuation model. So bear with me as we go through this. So first step, so back as recently as December 2020, Ethereum made up about 15% of Bitcoin's market capital. Now it's 24%. And that's important as we go forward. So keep that number in mind. Another very important ratio was the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. It has gone from 0.022 to 0.038. It's another way of looking at the same type of numbers. And for those of you that have been with me since the beginning of this journey, back in December, you'll remember I did a video on Christmas Day about how chronically undervalued Ethereum was, because I noticed this pattern. I like to look at patterns and ratios to make money-making decisions. And I identified the fact that Ethereum was completely out of whack to Bitcoin, and I jumped in hard on top of a big existing position. But let's go further. Let's talk very quickly about the differences between Bitcoin and Ethereum. So first of all, as you all know, Bitcoin is a digital currency and a store of value, whereas Ethereum is a token capable of facilitating smart contracts. Big difference. Also, Bitcoin began in January 2009. Ethereum is a little younger, began in July 2015. Bitcoin, and one of the things I love about Bitcoin is its finite supply. There will only ever be 21 million coins, of which 4 million are lost. Only 18.6 million have been mined to date, etc. You've heard me talk about that before. But Ethereum has no cap on capacity. I'll talk more about the actual supply in a while as well. The symbols, you'll hear me say BTC, ETH. They're the 2 different symbols. And the inventor, Satoshi Nakamoto, versus Vitalik Buterin and a couple of other people. That's a bit of the history that you need to know, because those differences are quite important. Now, one of the things that has me very bullish on Ethereum is the fact that its partnership network is incredibly powerful. In addition to some of these big logos, you've got new groups jumping on every single day, and you've got big firms like Visa as well that are deep in partnerships with Ethereum. So not only does Ethereum have more developers, but it also has the strongest set of partnerships out there anywhere. Why I'm extremely bullish on Ethereum. Another factor that's important to bear in mind is CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, need a blockchain like Ethereum. So imagine you are a sovereign state and you want to launch your own central bank digital currency. You will need a platform like Ethereum, and that is the best. I know that many countries are conducting feasibility studies right now as to which platform to go with. So let's talk about the supply. Again, a lot of this has to do with economics, and supply and demand are 2 very critical things. So let's dig into the actual supply for a second. The Ethereum supply, the market cap today is $210 billion. And the price at the time of creating the slide is about $18.37. So the coin supply today is 114 million coins, substantially more than Bitcoin. Now, what I also calculated was 2 new Ethereum are supplied or mined every 15 seconds. That sounds like a lot, and it is. So the new ETH per year is about 4.2 million. So I There is some talk about putting a cap on the Ethereum supply, but none of that is set in stone yet. However, to be conservative, and this is important for the valuation models we'll look at very shortly, I need to know exactly how many coins there are so I can estimate the price in the year 2030. So if you look at the addition of the number of ETH per year based on the ETH supply growing by 2 new ETH every 15 seconds, going out for 10 years, the supply in 2021 will be about 114 million to 118 in 22, 123, 23, and so on, all the way up to about 152 million coins in the year 2030. Again, as usual, I build up the story. It'll all make sense in a little while, so bear with me. Also, for those who have seen my Ethereum price predictions by the year 2030, I tend to be very conservative in my price predictions. I'd rather be conservative and sandbag a little bit than give some astronomical price prediction like somebody saying, oh, it's going to be 50,000 by March. No, that's not my style. So what I did in my price prediction model, I looked at a whole bunch of valuation models like Metcalfe's law and everything else, did some forward projections, looked at all the top analysts in the industry, excluded a couple, and I came up with this chart. And there's a whole video on this, so please check that out if you're interested as to how I came up with the 12,800 by the year 2030. Again, super conservative. You've got people like Raoul Pal, who believes that Ethereum could hit $20,000 in this particular bull cycle, which means by the end of this year. So that's my first price prediction. The second price prediction is a function of Ethereum dominance, and that's why I had that slide up at the beginning of this presentation. So a lot of people believe that Ethereum could make up 33% of the Bitcoin market capitalization. Now, as per my other video on price predictions for Bitcoin, I estimate Bitcoin could reach 551,000 by the year 2030. And that would bring a Bitcoin market cap to about 10.4 trillion, which is very similar to that of gold. And if the Ethereum dominance is a third of that of the market cap of Bitcoin, that will give the market cap of Ethereum around 3.5 trillion. And the number of ETH coins in the year 2030 is 152 million. It'll give out a price per Ethereum coin at about 22,938. That is my second model. The third model, and this talks about at peak, Ethereum had 10% of the Bitcoin value. So if you imagine the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio today, again, another reason I show the ratios up front, was 1,840 over 48,000, which both Ethereum and Bitcoin trading at today, that's 0.038. And many predict basically there could be a 10 ETH to 1 Bitcoin ratio. And some believe it could even go a lot higher. So assuming if that 10 ETH to 1 Bitcoin ratio happens, and again, the Bitcoin price in the year 2030 is 551,000, that would place the price of ETH at about 55,000. They're the three so far. Now, to prove that ETH can be 10% of the Bitcoin price, that actually happened in January 2018. So not that long ago. This is another chart I put together in another Ethereum price prediction video and Ethereum opportunity video as well. So check that out if you're interested. Now, let's put together a quick summary of these three different models. You got my model of 12,800 in the year 2030. You got the ETH dominance thesis of 33% of Bitcoin market cap of 22,938, again in 2030. And you've got ETH going to 10% of the Bitcoin value, would bring it to 55,000. So the fourth model is taking an average of all three. You've got my ultra conservative model of 12,800 with the 10% of Bitcoin value of 55,000, giving you an average of 30,000. And I'll explain shortly why that's very important. So give everybody the options to whichever valuation model they prefer and which ones they want to use. So a quick warning to everybody. Again, none of this is investment advice. You got people, some very smart people like Chamath. He believes it could go to zero. So big warning, please wait for the conclusion because I'll tell you why it's not going to go to zero at the very end of this video as well. So here we go. Where's the beef? Sorry for all the vegans out there, no offense, but this is the meat of the presentation we're going to jump into right now. First of all, I analyzed the cost of living index, purchasing power, and average salary across 180 different countries. And if anybody's interested in that model, I have that. And then I picked the top countries where most of my viewers are from. And I also picked the top places that people want to retire in the world and put together a different price model of how much you need to retire in these places across these 3 different pricing models. So let me explain and walk you through in detail the first one. I picked the Cayman Islands for 2 reasons. 1, it's the most expensive place in the world to live. And 2, Raoul Pal is there. And he's the guy that believes Ethereum could hit $20,000 in this bull cycle, which basically means more than a 10x from where it is today, which would be great. But, I like to be conservative. So if you imagine the model here on the right, this is the mechanics of it. Again, it's a huge retirement model. I'll take a little bit of time going through the first one so you know how it works. I have the different price prediction models, the 4 of them. I got my model, the Ethereum dominance, the 10% of Bitcoin value, and the average of all 3. And then I've got your monthly spend, which is indexed by 1% per year of inflation. That's the year 2030 to the year 2055. So I added 25 years out. I also conservatively assumed the Ethereum would appreciate by 3% per year. So given that, you actually have an amount that you can spend every single month. So the cost just to live in the Cayman Islands per month today is about $7,322. Of course, tax is not taken into account. Assume this is all after tax and people are retired and everything else. If you want to take tax into account, it's pretty easy to do. Just take your particular jurisdiction, but it's too difficult for me to estimate tax because I got people from all over the world with a whole host of different tax-free vehicles for retirement. Anyhow, the point of that is, how much Ethereum do you need to generate $7,300 per month for the next 25 years, beginning in the year 2030? That'll take you from 2030 all the way to the year 2054. And the answer is, assuming my model, you will need 129 Ethereum. If you assume the Ethereum dominance model, you will need 72 Ethereum. If you assume Ethereum will hit 10% of Bitcoin market value and Bitcoin hits 550,000 in the year 2030, you need 30 Ethereum. And taking an average of all those 3, you need 54 Ethereum. So that's how many Ethereum you need for the most expensive place in the world. And just to recap, if you want to retire in the most expensive place in the world, you're going to need somewhere between 129 and 30 Ethereum, depending on which model you want to use. Let's check out country number 2, USA, where I live. Here, exact same methodology, price to cost index, and what it takes to retire a simple life. You need in the US $5,488 a month. Now, that doesn't mean you live in Manhattan or San Francisco, but somewhere that's, cheaper, like Arizona, Nevada, Utah, place like that. That'll cover your food, rent, and basic medical. So the cost, or the number of Ethereum you need in the US, again, using my model, you need 96. The dominance model, 54. The 10% of Bitcoin value, 22. And the average is 41. So think somewhere between, say, 25 and 100 to survive in the US, depending on the model. I would think a safe number would be 100 Ethereum in the United States, just to be conservative. Let's go a little further. Let's look at Australia. And a big hello to all the Australian fans down there. You guys love crypto, so thank you for tuning in all the time. So Australia, to live conservatively, you need about $5,229 a month. And that means you need approximately 92 ETH using my model, all the way down to 21 ETH, depending on which model you want to go with. Again, if Ethereum becomes 10% of Bitcoin value, you only need 21 Ethereum to retire. And that's not a lot. Next in the box, Portugal in Europe. Considered one of the best places to retire. It's crypto friendly, it's tax free, low cost of living, good healthcare. It's become a very popular space. And I know a few friends of mine actually here in the US have European heritage, and they're looking to go back there. So Portugal, again, you need about $4,000 a month. It's indexed and everything else, as you know. You'll need somewhere between 70 Ethereum using my model, all the way down to 16. And the average of those is 29 Ethereum. Panama, you need, again, very similar to Portugal, about $4,000 a month. In my model, you need 68 Ethereum, all the way down to 16, with an average of 29 Ethereum per month. Costa Rica, very popular place for Americans to retire. You will need about $3,500 a month to live well and comfortably. Per my model, you need 62 Ethereum, and the best model, the biggest valuation of 55,000, i.e. the 10% of Bitcoin value, you need about 14 Ethereum. So on average, it's 26 Ethereum. Malaysia, a spot, again, very good standard of living, and a lot of expats live there. You need 51 per my model, 12 per the 10% Bitcoin value model, and an average of 21 to be able to spend about $2,900 a month. Mexico, another popular place. There you need $2,700 a month. Ethereum, my model, you need 48 Ethereum, all the way down to 11. On average, 20 Ethereum to live well in Mexico. Colombia, you need $1,964 to live okay there. Again, interesting place, good medical, good standard of living. A lot of Americans are moving there now. Of course, you need the Spanish language too. The Ethereum per my model, 35, all the way down to 8, with an average of 15 Ethereum to retire there. Indonesia, a little show here. This little egg here comes from Bali in Indonesia. I just thought I'd show that. I try to pick up places from all over the world, and Bali, Indonesia is an amazing place, and I'm not doing a travel plug or anything like that, but it's also a place where a lot of people, particularly Australians, like to retire. So there you need about $1,750 a month to survive. All these dollar denominations they're talking about are US dollars, which have been equated for all the different currencies across the world. The Ethereum needed, you need 31, all the way down to 7, with an average of 13 to retire well in Indonesia. And my last model is Vietnam. There you need about $1,676 US dollars a month to live. My model, you need 30 Ethereum, all the way down to 7 Ethereum. So somewhere on average, say 13 Ethereum to retire in Vietnam, which is not that bad at all. So conclusion of all of this, and sorry for being a long one, but you guys wanted to know different costs of indices all around the world. Conclusion number one, Ethereum has been, the news from Ethereum has been extremely positive, and there's a lot of speculation that the future is incredibly bright. A lot of people are talking to that, and it has a lot of long-term potential and a high probability of success. Conclusion number one. Conclusion number two, many believe Ethereum could be worth at least $100,000 by the year 2030, way beyond my models, but again, I like to sandbag and be conservative. And Raoul Pal said, according to Metcalfe's law recently, he believes Ethereum could hit $20,000 in this bull cycle. And again, I prefer being conservative, and I'd be very happy if Ethereum hit 12,800. Remember, we were buying Ethereum in June and July for $300 and change, and now it's nearly 2,000. So again, 7-8 months ago, it was a fraction of the price today, and people are calling for it to 10x very quickly as well. Conclusion number three. Most importantly, will it survive? And I hinted at this when I showed the Chamath slide that he says is going down to zero. At the moment, it's not only surviving, it's thriving. And Ethereum is the most popular smart contract platform on the planet. It has more developers, I think 2,500 developers at last count working on the project, more than any other cryptocurrency in the world by far. And there's even more Bitcoin locked up in Ethereum than there is locked up on Bitcoin's Lightning Network. So think about that. So that's the end of the show. Big thank you to all the Patreon people again for all the support. And if anybody wants these models, I will be sharing them on my Patreon account. And if you like the content, hit the thumbs up, it means a lot to me. And subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I'm going to do a revised model as well for Bitcoin. So hit the bell if you want to know if that's coming up as well. Thank you, everybody. Watch for the scammers. They're everywhere. Take care.